We'll call the regular meeting of Peters Township Council for Monday, March 27, 2023 to order. Mr. Jarowski, can you call the roll, please?
Certainly. Mr. Arcuri is excused this evening. Ms. Shanafelt?
I'm here.
Dr. Porosco?
Here.
Mr. Kozer?
Here.
Mr. Steigel?
Here.
Mr. Lewis?
Here.
Mr. Ross?
Here.
We'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of the meeting of March 13, 2023.
So moved. Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. 6-0, Mr. Jarowski. Next item is special reports, recognition of the Peters Township High School dance team. It is our honor this evening to honor the Peters Township High School dance team for winning their second straight national championship at the ESPN Wide World of Sports in Orlando, Florida. The dance team brought home gold in the small varsity hip-hop division against 46 teams from all over the United States of America. This is the team's fourth title since 2013, and we couldn't be prouder of you ladies. Your coach, Barb Delaire, is here to introduce each of the team members and to give each of you a memento from the township. Ms. Delaire.
Thank you very much for recognizing. I appreciate it. It's been a long struggle. We started this team, my daughter and I, in 2005 with do you want to start a dance team? Sure, why not? So got permission from the principal at the time and held auditions, and lo and behold, people came and tried out, and we started competing. We did local competitions for a year only and then started going to the national competition. So in 2013, we were proud to bring home our first national championship, shocked as well. And then in 2020, we were thrilled to bring home another one. 2021, because of COVID, we didn't get to compete. So 2022, we won. 2023, we won. So this year has been a year with more struggles than others. We had less wins at competitions than before, and that's kind of surprising for girls who had not lost. They were unbeaten for a couple years. So for each competition, we took score sheets and went back and said, this is what they said, let's fix this. Next competition, this is what the judges said, let's fix this. Way down to the night before the final competition. And Nika finally said to the girls, I've said everything I can say. I've told you everything that I can tell you. I've made every correction that I can make. It's up to you now. And they went back and had a meeting and came in and said, call us out. If we do something, don't just say, somebody over here, call me by name, call us out, make these corrections. And they worked their buns off. We were outside of the All-Star Sports area in a lighted area, having practice at 9, 10 o'clock at night. 10 o'clock we had to shut down. But going through, we also had teams from Upper St. Clair and from Char Valley who were there. Canamac was also there, but we weren't rooming anywhere near them. But they came and we all performed for each other. It was true sportswomanship at its finest for each team to get up and do their routine, and the rest of the girls encourage them and tell them, this is what was great, this is what you need to work on. So the three teams working together made my heart, as a teacher, made my heart soar. So we got up the next door and we're like, you know what, girls? Leave it on the floor. Give it everything you have. And they went out and performed the most perfect routine we have seen them perform. We were jumping up and down screaming. We said, we don't care what place you take. It makes no difference. That was perfect. And then they start to announce. So, of course, when they're starting to announce top 10, we're like, please, please, please. So get down to the top 2, and it was us and a team that has been our rival for the last several years. The 2021, when we couldn't go, they won. And the years before 2020, they had won 3 or 4 in a row. So we were their downfall. And they came down to the 2 of us. And the minute they announced the other team, I think our team just went crazy. I'm so incredibly proud of these girls. We are proud to produce strong, positive, hardworking young women who know what hard work is and who know how to put it all out there and leave it on the floor. So thank you so much for recognizing us. Can I go ahead and call their names and we'll leave them there? Some of the girls have practice and could not be here tonight, so I will go through the ones who are, well, everybody. Taylor Aiello, Marie Antonia, Sam Gardner, Emma Beth, Gabby Casilli, Eva Speroni can't be here, Helena Darby, Gabby Englesford, Delaney Gatos, Maddie Hensler, Ashlyn Morgan, Haley Morgan, Sammy Parrish, Anna Ratner, Courtney Schilling, and Maddie Zaborski. And along with these 16 young, wonderful women, we also have a lot of wonderful parents who have been supportive and have followed us every step of the way, and we really appreciate it. Okay?
Don't go anywhere, ladies. We're not done. So, last year when you ladies were here, we presented you with one of these signs, and it was a little bit of an omission on our part that it didn't get hung at any of the entrances to the township. So we have decided that the Welcome to Peters Township sign at the Thomas Road side of the township is going to be dedicated to you ladies. So this sign...
You made my year up until now. This is my year.
And I went out there today just to look, and based on how high the Welcome to Peters Township sign is there, we can fit about 3 more of these. So I fully expect that by 2026 that sign will be full. So I don't know who I give it to. So you'll give it back to us, so we'll have Public Works hang it. But let's put it up front there and get a picture.
Run out the big guns for
Let's get everybody in council behind these ladies here.
nobody. Tom.
We got to try to replicate last year because apparently it was good luck. So we all squeezed into the picture.
Yeah, put it in front of that sign there. Yeah, there you go. Nice.
We'll all stand on our tiptoes so that we're...
That sign actually is for the team.
Oh,
They
that's
can
for the
take that. We have another
Okay.
sign upstairs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that sign is
Sorry,
for
that was
them.
my mistake.
That's all right. That's
Take
all right.
that one and hang it wherever you hung last year.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Before you go, ladies, again, we just want to say on council's behalf how proud we are of all of you and your accomplishments, and we are counting on seeing you here again next year, okay?
You're all welcome to stay. No pressure.
I love
If you want.
watching it. It's great.
But I'm sure you have
guys
better
do a great
things to
job.
do.
They don't have a merit badge they have to earn.
Well, how did I know that was going to empty 75% of the room?
That is not my hair.
Just waiting for the doors to close.
Yeah.
Entirely too
All
long
right,
and too
now we will move on to our second celebration tonight. It's a bittersweet night for us here at Peters Township as we say goodbye to our longtime planning director, Ed Zook. Ed's been with us for 33 years. Believe it or not, as young as he looks, he's been here for 33 years. Been our planning director for 28 years. And Kyle wrote a speech, and Kyle, no offense, but I'm not going to be able to read and say what I want to say about Ed. Ed, you have been an asset to this community. I can't count the number of times that we've relied upon your expertise, your knowledge, and your even temper. And quite honestly, some of the people you've had to deal with over the years, I'm amazed that you've kept an even keel over the years. And you were an absolute asset to this community, Ed. As you know, sometimes when I stood on the other side of this podium before I got on this side, you and I didn't always agree, but no one will ever convince me that you did not always have this township's best interests at heart. And when you look around at the development that went on in this township, if we didn't have someone like you stewarding the ship, we wouldn't be where we are today. And I mean that with all my heart, Ed.
Thank you.
And no offense to your successor, but there will be no replacement for you, Ed. And we wish you well in your retirement. We hope that whatever you do, you accomplish whatever you want, and anytime you want to come back and visit, there'll always be a spot for you.
Thank you very much.
But before we send you away, we got a few parting gifts. So if you want to come on down, Ed, come down the middle here. And
Yeah. Gotta go.
we're going to put you on the spot for the first time. long time. Tom, you want to come in?
What's that?
I hope somebody saws that.
Got you a driver. Tom has here for you now. Usually, when we hand out these road signs, it's usually whoever the person is, it's usually Lane or Way. Even though it always was Ed Zook's Way, we decided to probably give him the drive to golf that Ed Zook Drive made more sense.
Thank you. I thank council.
Get over here. We gotta get a picture. Oh, final send off.
There you go.
You got to enjoy it.
Thank you.
Ryan, how's it been?
He's gone.
All right, now that all the celebratory events are behind us. No, it did not change much. Nope. Let's move on to audience comments. This is the section of the meeting where any member of the audience can speak for up to 5 minutes on a non-agenda item. Is there anyone who wishes to speak?
I'll go first. Can I get my name and address?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Marty Sloan, 2271 Walnut Drive. I was here a couple weeks ago to talk about a book that's in the library that talks about how little kids can pick their gender. They can be a boy or a girl. When they're born, the doctors guess, the parents guess what their gender is. Told you guys that I was going to put in a reconsideration form for that. I did, and it was rejected. So I'm going to submit it to the library board to have them review it. And it's interesting how the process works. So if you check out the American Library Association's website, for school libraries, they have a process where they take meeting minutes and they invite the person to come in and speak, when they review it. And for the public library, there's nothing. So it's just a closed door for me. And I don't know if there's anything we can do about that. It'd be great if I was involved in the process at all. Is that anything that you guys can do?
To amend the process?
Yeah.
Mr. Jarosky?
They're going to actually, they're going to take your testimony. You're appearing before that board to give your opinion on it. You're not,
Yeah.
the door is not closed to you to attend that meeting.
Yeah, but I'm talking
The
about
deliberation after the fact.
the reconsideration.
Yeah, the deliberation upon your request is something that will be done. That would be truthfully no different than any action of council or something like that where, there would be a decision that would be made in public. I don't really see how what change you would like to, what change would you like in that policy?
Yeah, I can be more specific about
Yeah.
it. So the initial process is that I submit a form for reconsideration. That part, the whole part, is completely behind closed doors. I cannot take part in that at all.
There are deliberations on the matter.
So again, if you look at the American Library Association's website and the recommendations, if this is a school library, I would be invited to that reconsideration process. I'd be able to speak to those who are, making the decision. I have no idea who made that decision, none whatsoever.
You are going to be present at that board meeting, correct? In April. You're going to be present at the meeting.
At the board meeting,
to make your
not
case.
at the reconsideration meeting, which is already done. I was not included in that process.
That's an administrative process with the library director, if that's what you're talking about.
Well, it's part of the American Library Association website that I looked at that defines these rules. So if the answer is no, you can't.
And you
do it,
have-
and the answer is no, I don't know.
Okay, and in fairness, you do have me at a disadvantage. I do not have that website in front of me right now to look at and sort of
Sure.
offer my opinion on.
Mr. Sloan, can you get us a
So I'm willing
copy
to
of
look
those?
at it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah, if you get us a copy of those, we'll look at it.
Yeah.
Okay. I
Because
appreciate
I think that this is probably the first time we've ever dealt with this issue. So we're
Yeah.
Yeah,
we're a little
and
bit green as far as this issue goes.
I understand. I got a response from Lacey, the director, today as well. And she said she has to, kind of work with the library board because they've never had to do this before either.
Yeah.
I do want to note, though, that when I spoke to Lacey and expressed my concerns, she asked me to present her with information backing up my point, right? Which is that these books are harmful to children. There's a lot of evidence out there to suggest that. And I spent a lot of my time researching that to get her the information to support my case. And in their response, they didn't mention anything. All they said was, this is a really popular book, so we have it in our collection. But it was just kind of question begging. You know, it's like, okay, well, the question still remains, is it appropriate for children? They did not address that whatsoever. So again, going back to the reconsideration part, I got no opportunity to kind of give my opinion on this as to why I want it to be removed. Right?
You didn't have it with the library director. You will have it with the board, though. You haven't been shut out of this process entirely.
I understand that.
So.
Just curious, on the process you're describing, do you get to speak twice to both hearings? At the public school level, I think that's what you're referring to, you would have a chance for reconsideration, provide testimony. Is there then an appeal process where you would do the same, or is it still only one time where you provide testimony? I don't know. I mean,
Yeah,
I hear
that's
you.
a question.
So in this particular instance, I can only provide my testimony one time, right?
In the township's interest, or just in the rules you've presented to them?
So when the library board meets to decide,
That'll be the first time you can testify.
then I can testify.
But the rules you're promulgating, is there two opportunities to testify, or still just one?
Well, it's not exactly clear. If you read the American Library Association website, it kind of implies that it could be a longer process, or they could meet several times on it. But it does say clearly for the school library that the person who submits the complaint should have time to speak about why they submitted it. If the folks who are part of that board feel that it's appropriate, they can be there for the deliberation. Meeting minutes should be taken. I would love to know who's present there. I'd love to know who voted to keep this book in our public library. It's a public library.
Well, I wonder on your appeal, are they on the other side? Trying to make this similar to what we're familiar with, our zoning officer may go out and cite somebody. There's no opportunity for you to have a back and forth with our zoning officer, but you have a forum to appeal the zoning officer's determination to the board, to our zoning hearing board. And then that's where the testimony is. That's the municipal process that we're used to. I'm not saying that that's right or wrong in the library world. That's all I know.
And that was sort of what I was getting at. The first appeal is entirely administrative. The second one will be at a board meeting. There will be minutes taken. You will have a chance to make your case. I mean, that is the one that, really,
and then
that's probably the most important one anyway, because that's the final say.
Right, and I wonder if the people that voted, that kept the book on the shelf, if that's the other side presenting their case to the board, and the board then makes a decision as between both. I imagine that's the process, and that's probably a better process for you, because then you will hear why, and then you have this arguably neutral body on the library board to make the determination.
Okay.
I mean, we're unfamiliar with that. We don't give advice to the library board. I don't create those rules, but I'm just assuming that's probably how that was promulgated.
Well, it would make sense. It's the same thing like when you take a zoning appeal, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, you get to present your case once, and if you take it on appeal, it's just reviewed based on the record of the previous proceeding. So it's almost like as if here it's in reverse. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but if you want to email us, or at least email Ryan that website,
Yeah, please.
he can send it on to us.
Have they scheduled you for hearing?
Yeah, it's April 11th.
Okay. Well, then we'll probably learn how that process ends up at the end in terms of how they decide the case.
Yeah, but we should know this moving forward, because I get the feeling this is probably not going to be the last one of these we're going to be seeing. So.
Right.
You weren't here for this, were you?
Just glossy back, so I think we're good. Good to go.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you,
no
Mr.
problem.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else from the audience who wishes to speak?
Maureen Jones, East McMurray Road. In going through the minutes of the last meeting, I noticed you had a discussion on some plans for Rolling Hills Park, and it was brought up about getting maybe more basketball courts. I thought one of the key items for the Rolling Hills Park was it was supposed to be a more passive type recreations going in there, since all the other parks had plenty of activities, and it was supposed to be more family friendly, maybe shelters, the walking trails and so forth, and not so much geared to so many youth activities. So I just wanted to see if that was still under consideration for that park.
Oh, yeah, the original master plan actually had an area set aside for sport courts. And I don't know at this point that there's necessarily an appetite here to increase the number of courts there's going to be. It may be just changing what the
Right.
nature of those courts are.
Okay, but as I said, I just wanted to, remind the council, that was one of the things, was it was supposed to be leaning a little more on the passive type of activities that were going on at that park, other than the aquatic center and, as you said, what was designated.
Okay.
All
I
right?
think a better way of describing at least my own thoughts had been the development of the park was to avoid duplicating facilities we have
Yes,
relative to fields and courts in other parts of the parks, and be unique, generating opportunities with whatever was going to be. So there were, concept of tennis courts, there was a concept of basketball courts, a deck hockey rink, along with the pool.
Mr. Lewis brings up a good point. How many basketball courts do we have in the township that aren't associated with the school?
I have no idea.
I'm pretty sure.
Michelle, how many?
0.
I'm pretty sure the number is 0. So to provide for our community, it's something in, like Mr. Kozer said, in that area of the racket in sports. That's something we were looking to, add a couple.
Okay.
I don't think it takes up a very large percentage of the park either. It's
Not at all.
just up in, I think, the corner bordering the school district area.
But rest assured, there are no plans on our part to make it emulate the other parks in the township.
That was my fear, because when I read it, because I knew there was some space already allocated for that, and I interpreted that you were putting additional.
No, that's not what we're intending.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Hello, John McCarthy. Probably before the pandemic, I attended a meeting and I heard you discussing draining some of Peters Lake, and I wondered where we were at with that.
It's not on the
Because of-
table at all, sir, so
Pardon?
there's no plan to drain part of the lake.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good, that's good news. The last council meeting, I expressed some dissatisfaction in how our municipal building was closed off from the residents coming inside. And I told you I visited Upper St. Clair just to see what theirs was like. Have any of you, since the last meeting, stopped at Upper St. Clair to view their building?
Yes,
What did
it's
you-
currently It's currently undergoing major renovations. But the times I've walked in it, there's usually a door after you walk in. The door opens automatically, but after you walk in, there's a big open area. And I usually have to go over to, if I want to get into the administrative side to see either the assistant manager or the manager there, I have to get buzzed in by the secretary who's sitting behind that closed door. That's been my experience going there.
Well, I walked right in to where you could talk to the tax lady and the secretary. And I wouldn't walk right into the township manager's office.
Yeah, but
without-
that's where all their administrative staff is. I mean, I'm just saying, the
Well, it
equivalent
sure
here would be
seemed
that.
much more open at hours. So I would encourage you to see it yourself, and maybe you might see an idea that we could use that might improve our municipal building. To get to Upper St. Clair Municipal Building, you go down McMurray Road and you drive north towards Allegheny County. And then once you cross under Route 19, it's right there on the left, across from one of the entrances to the high school. Thank you.
Ms. Bollister, you've been waiting patiently, so come on up. Absolutely.
Actually, you'll have to move this out. It's a little indecent, I'm sorry. Actually, don't even have one for myself. All right.
That's all right.
All right. I'm gonna have to actually pull up mine.
Do you want one to look at while you're?
Oh, is that okay? I'm sorry.
Absolutely.
I actually don't really have anything planned to say. I took these pictures in October of 2022 when I was at the library with my son, who he's 12. He's really into graphic novels. So pulls these out, right? and I'm looking through it, and some of it is a little, I mean, it talks about male privilege, trying to make yourself look more white, how that's a problem. The third page. But really, when you get to the fourth, so the second to last page, is 131. The middle of the page on the left-hand side, there's a graphic that's, I get it. It's a comic. It's cartoon, but it's pornography, I think. It's, and it talks about, it's a revelation to be with someone who saw and wanted my body as it was, androgynous, hairy, and heavy. So, this goes on. I just, then the last page, they're in bed.
Is this at the library?
Yes, it's at the library in the graphic novels section. I wasn't going to really make a fuss about this because I know maybe there are parents who want their kids to see this. It was just a shock to me that my child, thank goodness, he's like, well, check this out, right? So I don't even know what to say. What is the process? And I did talk with the director of the library about not taking books out of the library, but putting what are considered timeless good books in. For instance, there's a series called The Great Books. And I said, I would really like to donate this set of 54 books. It's philosophers all the way through, and it's not political. It's very apolitical because even into what I'm going to say is like the third shelf. So like book 48 is Karl Marx, which is in his own writing. It's an original writing. I'm not saying we should take things out. She denied it. She goes, no, we don't want old books in our library. There's no room. I said, well, where would it be? She goes, over here, but there's no room there. Well, I went over there to take pictures of the shelves to see if it would fit, this set of books that I wanted to donate. It would fit. So I started thinking to myself, okay, this is in here, but she doesn't want, other books, like the great books. So philosophers like Plato, Aristotle, in why? I'm wondering about, maybe there's an agenda there. So I don't even know what to do at this point or how to bring this up or what my next step is. I don't even know if there's going to be a next step. I just wanted to bring this to your attention in the township.
Yeah. I do have to step in. I've worked with Lacey now for over 2 years. It never struck me that she has an agenda running that library. I mean, that's a little too far.
I ponder, why would she have said that? I'm not saying anything of anybody's character. These are my thoughts. I am wondering if this is in here, but the other books, so these are the things that I'm wondering. What is the process to get books into a library? I know I could probably find this all. She was also very, I don't know if it was Lacey. I'm assuming it was the day when I spoke.
No idea.
I have no idea either. But she was visibly upset by me asking if I could donate these books in. And I just, I was very kind. And I said, you look like maybe you're having a hard day. She said, I am. I'm having a hard day. I said, well, look, I'm sorry. We all have hard days. Maybe we'll talk about this later. But I never went back to have a conversation with her about it. So anyway, I just wanted to bring that to the attention of the council and let you know that there are books like that in, I don't know. Thanks.
Thank you. Ryan, as I recall, it may not be the case anymore, but if anyone wanted to donate a book to the library, you could just donate it. I mean,
We took donations. I will tell you, in the past, when we took donations, sometimes those books were not the quality of the book, not in terms of its content, but the actual book itself was falling apart. And what we ended up getting was, I remember when Lacey took over, she said, Ryan, I have a ton of books that don't have covers or missing pages, things like that, and we got rid of them. Let me talk with Lacey just about how she handles donations and what their, I don't know offhand what their policy is going
yeah, if you can let
forward.
us know over the next
But
meeting.
I can get you information on that.
Let us
Yeah.
know for the next meeting what that policy is.
Thank you, sir.
Anybody else want to speak on a non-agenda item?
Hi, my name's Donna Watson. I live at 301 Sugar Camp Road. It's across from what's going to be the Sugar Brook plant. Right as of right now, it doesn't really look like much activities going on there. I had spoke with Marty Gillespie probably last spring because of the amount of dirt that my house took on while the excavating was going on. And he did assure me that whenever I was ready that he would, I would be able to get it power washed and all that stuff. That's fine. That's great. So now, right now, there's no, it doesn't look like anything's happening. Like an excavation was supposed to be done, I think it was October of 22. I think it ran into maybe December, but it's been a couple months now, 3-4 months, there's nothing going on over there except what it looks to be is a storage locker for all their heavy equipment. So basically they put it there at night, store it there overnight, and then get it in the morning and take it to whatever other site they're using to build. My problem is that, of course, nobody wants to look at a big mud puddle because that's exactly what this is over there, is a big mud puddle. And I certainly don't want to look at it all summer because I spend a lot of money and a lot of time on my yard during the summer planting plants. And I do. I spend a lot of time out there. However, now, over the last month, I noticed that there is not only is the equipment being stored there, but it's a garbage dump. There is old pipe. There's what are those pallets, more old pipe, some ductwork, whatever, and it's in a big dump. And I was wondering how high that pile of garbage has to be before someone's going to take care of that.
You want to go?
Yeah, Mark provided a memo to council at the last council meeting. Mark went out and took some pictures of the site. The trash pile she's referring to, there is a little bit of a refuse pile there off Sugar Camp, but it's not anything in excess of what we would typically see as part of a development. I'll talk to the developer to see if he can get that cleaned up, and I'll try to do that first thing tomorrow. In regards to the lack of activity, going into the winter, they were very close to paving that plan early November. They were kind of pushing the envelope to try to get paving in. So they're at that cusp, and they missed the timing as it is to pave that plan. So here coming into the spring, when we get some really good consistent weather, which we're right on the cusp of that, I expect some activity there and some paving very soon. I expect that plan to be recorded very soon, lots to be sold, and homes started to go under construction. So I think we'll see a pickup of activity here in the very near future.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yep. Thank you, Mrs. Watson. Ms. Shaner, you look like you're ready. We'll save you for next.
Hi, everyone. My name's Chris Todd, 801 Ashwood Drive. I just wanted to comment on the book issue that's been raised tonight. Just as we're going forward, this seems to be something of sort of national significance that's becoming a little bit more common. For my part, I respect any parent's right to decide what is acceptable for their children, whether it's from a library or food or their church or whatever the issue is. Where I have a little bit of a problem was when they're trying to decide what's right for everyone else's children, and I just think that's something that we need to continue to consider. I also, just for the purpose of clarity from the Peters Township Policy and Procedure Manual, materials are selected to meet patron needs and reflect a variety of viewpoints and opinions. Criteria for consideration include popular demand, literary merit, enduring value, accuracy, authoritativeness, local interest, social significance, importance of the subject matter to the collection, timeliness, cost, information available on the subject, quality, and suitability of formats. So this is I don't know, potentially dangerous trend when we start to talk about banning books nationally. So that's all I wanted to add. Thank you.
Ms. Shaner?
Ann Shaner, it sounds like, are these on?
They're on.
Ann Shaner, 123 Robin Hood Lane. Number one, I want to make sure that you guys, please vote for the stop sign over on Cedar Hill, you know, that corner that I
was
put
there
in
actually
for.
today.
Did you?
I thought of you today because I was coming there and somebody came up the hill and almost took my front end.
I know, see, it's needed. Okay, good, good. All right. Also, in regards to the book thing, you know, I'm not an attorney or anything, but when people bring issues like this, especially because it is a national issue going on in the entire country, okay, with certain groups that are out there who are wanting to ban books, I think that we really need to keep in mind that you need standing, okay? They need to be able to show that it has harmed someone. And I don't think that that's been, I have to apologize. I missed Mr. Sloan's talk about that book at the last meeting because I got here late because I was at another meeting. And I think that I just would like council to really consider, you know, when you hear things like this, because this is a national issue and there are groups out there who are trying to promote this, and they'll present things, they'll say things, they'll do things. And I'm sorry that Mr. Lauer is not here because I saw him at the commissioners meeting, okay, so he would be my proof that I was there too, because I do attend the commissioners' meetings. I mean, I try to be actively involved in every which way that I can, okay, in our government and our proceedings to make, you know, everything acceptable. I fought the audit the vote people for 20 months up there. And sometimes as just the sole person on my side. Same thing with the school board meetings. The anti-vaxxers, the anti-maskers, same thing. I was the only person on the right side of the room, maybe 20 people over there. So you have to really, you know, watch when you're given information like this, okay, and give consideration to standing. If they can't prove any damage, now I'm not saying that there aren't books out there that could maybe, you know, do something to some child, but like Mr. Todd said, that's up to each individual parent. So I would not think that council should entertain anything just frivolously, okay, because you don't do that. And I think that you do need to give consideration and check out where your information's coming from. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Shaner. Anybody else?
Go ahead, sir. You have a great haircut. Go for it. I appreciate it. My name's Paul Watson. I'm at 301. You all know me, right? Sure. I was over there. I was working in my yard yesterday, and it's all staked out on my side of my property, and I have no reason. There's nothing. All my, from when I had everything surveyed, is plowed down. I couldn't even find a marker or anything. I looked at my neighbors and everything. Nothing.
Yeah.
Mr. Watson, based on our previous conversations, I asked the developer to stake the shared property line between that piece of property and yours. I was told that line has been staked. It was done by a reputable surveyor. I have no reason to believe that line's inaccurate.
And just to be clear.
It's not even close to it.
Have you provided any evidence otherwise?
Yeah. The township.
I have one. I have a survey of when I bought it and everything, yes.
But have you had the line marked?
Yes.
Physically?
I'll tell you what happened, is that if you look at when they were plowing all the trees and everything down and moving all the dirt, and I'd call, you could see where they were. Matter of fact, there was one that I lifted up out of the mud, and it was still there. I didn't move anything. It was they who moved it. I don't know who they are, but I know what mine are, and it's not consistent with theirs.
No, and there is a cure, as Mr. Smith will be the first to tell you, if there's a disagreement over where a lot line lies, it's not solved here at the township level. We do not enforce individual private property rights. There's a cure for
typically
that.
what I would do is if you have an existing survey.
You have to get it every 15 years. When we moved in, we had to get it. And then when I was doing my garage, I had to do it again.
Well, there's times you need to just approve lot lines and things like that. But what I'm suggesting is that you have your surveyor review this, if he has access to right to know or whatever, through the survey that was provided to the township. Then you can see whatever discrepancy may exist. We are not the referee for that. That's a court.
So now I have to go to court to prove.
Yes.
Well, it depends. Your surveyor may have an issue with what they have or may not. I don't know. So I think that's your first step to see if there's a discrepancy, not physically on site, but on interactual documents.
We do not employ a surveyor to evaluate people's surveys.
When I put everything down here and register it in this township, right, it needs to be stamped.
Yes.
And so, right?
Yeah.
All right, it should still be on record,
Yeah, it's on
right?
record. It is.
Sure,
So
but
yes.
but again, we're not disputing.
Yes.
We're not
You
going
may
to
be
just, we're
100%
not.
correct.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm 1,000%
You may be, but
And this is what happens. Anytime I'm not around, something happens. And that's why I gotta stand, you know what I mean? They tore my scent, and they says, I didn't do it. That's just what every time I get, oh, not me. You know, it's a freaking mess because of this. And anytime I get an answer, it's like, no, not us.
I mean, I think, again, to me, your first step should be having your surveyor review what their surveyor has done and see if those match up or where the discrepancy lies, if at all. It may just be physically on site. It may be you're mistaken or they're mistaken. I have no idea. But if there is a dispute, we have no ability to pick a winner there.
No.
I'm not saying that. If you go over there, if you were over on that site, you could see where the tree, they had a fence line, all right? Mine was right up to their fence line, right? And it was like, you could see like what the old one was years ago and then my new ones, how it was up to that fence. Everybody, all right? Then whoever they got there stepped over the bonds, moved all the stuff, crushed it down, and put theirs in. It's not even close.
And it may be the physical markings aren't going to mean a lot to you or anybody. It's really what the documents show that then somebody can say this is the meets and bounds of where your property begins and ends.
So there's no name or tag or nothing on it?
Just file a right to know for the Camden Village
You can
survey.
get the survey, yes.
The Camden Village
So
survey.
how do I have
I'll
to
make
do
you a
that?
deal. If you call me tomorrow,
Go to
I'll
court?
tell you exactly. Seth,
I'll
why don't you give
I'll
him your...
meet you there at 8 o'clock in the morning. Now
Yeah.
you'll
Here's the
send
thing.
me a
Do we-
certified letter.
We really have to have Mr. Watson go through that process.
We'll give him
He's
this-
asking for a copy of the survey.
That's fine.
Just give him a copy of the survey.
That's fine.
I'll send it to you in the morning.
Yeah.
Can you give me your email address?
No.
You don't need to say it out loud. You can
Just
Can you
right.
send the one that we have on file for our property as well?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Mr. Watson, are you done speaking?
Not really.
Okay. Otherwise, I'm going to call up the next speaker.
Yes.
You read that?
Yeah.
Perfect. All right?
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Bolster, you good? Anybody else want to speak? Seeing no one, we will move on to unfinished business. Award of bid alternate number 1 related to the Marlboro Drive Storm Sewer Project contract with Morgan Excavating.
I'll defer to Mr. Zemaitis on this.
So at the council meeting on February 13th, we awarded the base bid for Marlboro Drive, and we reserved the right to award either of the alternate bids. behind those two homes, if you recall, in the cul-de-sac.
Yes, sir.
So the 60 days is quickly approaching. We've, Paul and I have met with the property owners at each address there. And for ad alternate 2, the one at 124 Marlboro Drive, they've declined to participate and move forward. But the homeowners at 126 would like us to award ad alternate bid number 1. As such, we had our solicitor draft up an agreement release to do the work on that property. So that should be included in your docket. They signed that agreement and release. So at this point, I'm recommending that we award alternate bid number 1 in the amount of $32,487 to Morgan Excavating.
Any chance, Mark, you have the plan of what these two were? I'm sorry.
You want to give me the...
Yeah.
Meaning...
There's an overhead view of the homes with the two.
So the main line comes up through the properties and up into the woods. The one that we're contemplating here tonight, there's a low point right here that connects and goes up behind this swimming pool. There'll be a swale and an inlet and some 18-inch pipe put in. That's basically what ad alternate bid number 1 consists of.
Okay. And the one we're not doing?
The one we're not doing was a spur kind of into the side, the rear yard of this property here.
Is 126 the one where you've given several recommendations to in the past and they've declined to do anything?
That is correct.
Yeah. But I'm sure, everyone remembers, I would hope everyone remembers the videos. The flooding in that area was fairly severe, especially for that particular property at 126.
Yeah, these people are the most impacted at 126, and they are the ones that have asked us to award and agreed to participate, so
yeah,
we're hoping that this will solve the problem.
Does anybody want to make a motion? Well, you can tell Mr. Arcuri's not here tonight.
I'll move to award ad alternate bid number 1 to Morgan Excavating in the amount of $32,000 or $32,487.
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. 6-0, Mr. Jurovsky. Next item is authorize the appropriate township official to execute an agreement and release related to work being performed as part of the Marlboro Drive Storm Sewer project.
this is the agreement release for this particular award. So the property owners, the Chans, have already signed it. Just relies on council signing the same agreement for us to move forward with this project.
All right, I'll make the motion that we authorize the appropriate township official to execute an agreement and release related to work being performed as part of the Marlboro Drive Storm Sewer project.
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. 6-0. Mr. Jurovsky, before we go to new business, Ms. Shaner brought that up. Do we know the stop sign in Heritage Meadows? When's that going up?
What is it?
We're still waiting for a memo from Mike Mulgrew to kind of like make it legal.
Okay.
We will put a rush on that.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right, thank you.
we have a lot of traffic issues right now that he's working on, so it's taking a while. But I suspect we'll have to come back to council with a resolution to
Okay.
put a stop sign there.
All right.
Yeah.
Now we'll move on to new business. First item is approval for recording purposes of the Hamlet of Springdale lot consolidation plan lots in the 609C and 610C as shown on drawings prepared by the Harshman CE Group dated January 30th, 2023 for Benjamin Marcus Homes, LLC.
This is a consolidation of two lots in the Hamlet of Springdale Phase 6 plan, consolidating Lot 609 and 610. We'll be looking at a separate one immediately adjacent to those on the next item of the agenda. We reviewed this internally as staff. We took it to Planning Commission. They made a recommendation of approval to council. A couple kind of just notation things that need to be worked through before the plan can be recorded, but everything is in accordance with the conservation residential overlay requirements.
I'll make a motion to approve Hamlet of Springdale Consolidation Lot Plan 609C, 610C as shown on drawings prepared by Harshman CE Group, LLC, dated January 30th, 2023, subject to the conditions recommended by Planning Commission.
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. 6-0, Mr. Jurovsky. Next item, approval for recording purposes of the Hamlet of Springdale Lot Consolidation Plan Lots 611C and 612C, as shown on drawings prepared by the Harshman CE Group dated January 26, 2023 for Benjamin Marcus Homes LLC.
Very similar situation, the two lots adjacent to the previous plan, consolidation of the two. Took it to Planning Commission. They provided a recommendation of approval to council at the March 9 meeting. The only pending approval is the Peters Creek Sanitary Authority.
I'll make a motion that Peters Township approves for recording purposes Hamlet of Springdale Lot Consolidation Plans, Lot 611C and 612C, as shown in the drawings prepared by the Harshman Group dated January 26 for Benjamin Marcus Homes LLC, subject to conditions recommended by the Planning Commission.
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. 6-0, Mr. Jurovsky. Next item, approval for recording purposes of the Anthony Farms Plan of Lots Phase 3, Revision Number 2, as shown on drawings prepared by J.R. Gales and Associates, dated March 1st, 2023, for the Peters Township Land Company.
We've made some previous revisions to the Anthony Farms Phase 3 plan. This is the second version of those revisions. We've had lots previously consolidated in Anthony Farms Phase 3, so splitting the larger lot into two large lot has no impact on their planning module because we consolidated lots previously. What this plan will be doing is splitting that large lot into two separate lots with access along Brayburn Drive, and then making two lots along Wellington slightly larger, giving some area from one of the two lots. Planning Commission reviewed this and made a recommendation of approval at their March 9 meeting.
So that blue area is where the farmhouse was before?
Yes.
Is that right?
It's somewhere in this general vicinity, either on the blue or the red, but right there in this general vicinity, yes, is where that farmhouse is located.
And is the red parcel in a separate lot, too?
Yes, yes.
As a buildable lot?
Yes, they'll both be buildable lots. There is a conservation easement from the Army Corps of Engineers approximately in this location. There are two crossings required to service those lots, but those crossings have been obtained as part of that easement, so those can be utilized for the construction of homes on these lots.
So the house that will be built on the red lot, is that going to be accessed from East McMurray, or is it going to be accessed from the plant?
Brayburn.
Brayburn,
Like to
okay.
be accessed from Brayburn, yeah.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve Anthony Farms Plan Lots Phase 3, Revision Number 2, as shown in drawings prepared by J.R. Gales Associates, dated March 1st, 2023, for the Peters Township Land Company, subject to conditions recommended by Peters Township Planning Commission.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. 6-0, Mr. Jurovsky. Next item, ordinance amending the 2023 Peters Township budget.
So we had a public hearing on this ordinance amendment on February 27th. This is the amendment to include the $3.7 million that the township is going to receive from the FDA as a result of Detective Walker's participation in an FDA task force investigation. What you see before you on the left is the actual ordinance amendment, and then on the right is the items that are going to be purchased with this money. These funds were not included. They were not anticipated in the 2023 budget. And this actually sets up not only the spend plan for this money, it also sets up a separate fund entirely, which is required by the Equitable Sharing Program, as well as our auditors. So there's been no change to the spend plan or the ordinance from the time it appeared before council at the public hearing on the 27th. It's my recommendation that this ordinance be adopted.
I'll make a motion that Peters Township Council adopts ordinance 890, amending the 2023 Peters Township budget.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. 6-0, Mr. Jurovsky. Next item, resolution authorizing the appropriate township officials to dispose of certain records in a manner consistent with the Pennsylvania Municipal Records Manual.
Yeah, this is, every year we do this. We usually do it in February. I could not get around to it at that time. This involves basically destruction of records so that we basically have space to put more records for the past year. Included in this, just so everyone's aware, we're deleting all emails from December 31st, 2019 and prior. This is a process that we've adopted over the past few years to try to make sure that we're maximizing space on our server system here. So it's my recommendation that we adopt Resolution 030123.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion?
My question would be for hard copy documents.
Yes.
Can we assure the residents of how we're disposing them?
They're
Shredded?
yeah, they're disposed on-site, shredded, comes
Thank
with
you.
their truck and destroys it.
Thank you.
Yep.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. 6-0, Mr. Jurovsky. Next item, authorization for the appropriate township official to execute a release of claims for related to a statewide opioid settlement agreement reached with Teva, Allergan, TVS, Walgreens, CVS, Walgreens, and Walmart.
Yeah, so this came out of a bipartisan group of state attorney generals negotiating this settlement. The monies from this settlement must be used to address this crisis through treatment and other support services for those struggling with addiction. For Pennsylvania to receive its maximum share of this settlement, it needs the participation of all political subdivisions like Peters with a population of over 10,000. The point I would make to you tonight is the monies received by the state of Pennsylvania, 70% of them are being allocated to the county. So this is money that will be allocated in Washington County to help fight addiction. So I'd recommend that Peters Township Council authorize the appropriate township official to execute this release of claims.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. 6-0, Mr. Jurovsky. Next item, resolution amending the Peters Township Library Board bylaws.
Yeah, so this came out of the Peters Township Strategic Plan, which Council adopted last year by resolution. The current bylaws date back to the time when the Library Board was actually had operational capacity. And as part of the strategic plan, Lacey was really trying to re-energize and refocus the Library Board to accomplish, to meet the needs of the community, I should say. As part of this, there's a lot of different things in these bylaws. It updates the mission, it gives clear guidance to the authority of the board, the responsibility of board members, the responsibility of officers. It defines a quorum, rules for setting times of meetings, and a code of conduct for the library board. So it's my recommendation that Peters Township Council approve resolution 030223, adopting the bylaws for the Peters Township Library Board.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. 6-0, Mr. Jurovsky. Next item, resolution amending the Peters Township Park and Recreation Board bylaws.
Yeah, this is actually much more of an administrative change to the bylaws. The only real two changes are the board now will receive an agenda and meeting materials 3 days prior to the meeting as opposed to 5, and the sportsmanship pledge is extended to include administrative functions in support of various youth athletic associations. Michelle, did I miss anything? No?
A couple of grammatical.
Okay, yeah, most everything else other than that was grammatical. So it's my recommendation that Council approve Resolution 030323, adopting bylaws for the Park and Rec Board.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. 6-0, Mr. Jurovsky. Next item, resolution amending the Youth Sports Association athletic field sign sponsorship policy.
Yeah, so the current pricing structure for athletic signs on youth sports is right there. It's a 1-year commitment of $300, 2-year commitment of $250 each, and then 80% of the sponsor fee will be maintained by the sports and 20% paid to Peters Township. Here's the reality in terms of how this is implemented. We're not auditing the youth sports organizations to make sure that they're paying us our 20%, and it's frankly, it relies entirely on voluntary participation in this as a result of that particular clause. A recommendation that was made was to just establish a flat rental fee for having a field sign of $60. That's it. The Park and Rec Board at their last meeting recommended that this be adopted March 14th, I believe was your last Rec Board meeting, yes.
It was recommended in February.
Okay. There you go. You got me beat. But I don't know if there wants to be more discussion on this at the council level. I mean, I kind of defer to all of you there.
I have a couple of questions.
Go ahead.
Why are we taxing our youth sports groups, and how much money do we actually bring in on this yearly?
Yeah, and I couldn't tell you the money thing. I can get you that answer. I'll make you a deal. I'll send you that out tomorrow. I don't know that offhand right now. It is not any sizable amount of money. I mean, you're not going to have to increase taxes as a result of not receiving this money.
Because in my experience being on the boards of these organizations over the years, these organizations just put the money right back in to the township, i.e. the Peters Township Soccer Association is spending probably over $500,000 to put in the turf, to put in the concession stand and bathrooms there. So I would recommend not having any money come back to the township and have it stay in the youth organizations that we support.
You want to move to table this?
Yeah, so I guess I could move to table this.
Well, I guess there's two different things, right?
Yeah. Zero? I mean,
You table this or a separate vote to eliminate it, right?
Yeah.
Because tabling is going to put the issue back. I don't know if that needs to be an agenda item or not for next time, if you want to.
I mean, yeah.
I'd be just curious to know before we vote to eliminate exactly, how much revenue we're losing. Not that that's going to tip the scales.
I'm guessing 1,800. There's probably 30 signs up there. That's just my guess.
My guess would be under 3,000, but I don't know that offhand.
What do you think it is?
Okay. Okay.
I mean, which is real money for kids raising money.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So if you,
so can I make a motion to eliminate this? Or
Well, I think it's going to be up to council as to whether you want to hear additional information for the next meeting. You could table this, but I think your real question, Tom, is whether you want to just eliminate this by a separate vote, right? Because if you table this and leave it in place, the 80%, or whatever, 20% is still going to be in place.
Yeah, that's still in place for another 2 weeks.
So if there's a consensus, I think if council wants to wait until next meeting and hear more information, or I think you could probably just vote to, eliminate it if you want.
Yeah, because I have a question, like, if this isn't typically audited, why is it being brought up in a sense to?
Well, I think that's why. They don't know, so it's easier for them to follow.
Yeah, it's much easier to just have a flat fee. It's the most transparent it's the most transparent process imaginable.
Mr. Kozer, can Michelle speak to the council?
Yeah.
That's probably easiest.
Come on up.
Ms. Harmel,
As far as auditing, we do audit as far as somebody goes out and counts the signs and documents what is hung. We don't actually take in the paperwork that the sports associations collect from the businesses, so we don't audit it in that respect. We do count the amount of signs, and we do communicate with the sports associations about what's hung and what's owed. We just take them at their word for what they've collected. We just don't nitpick and say, well, we disagree with that. And as far as why the fees were implemented was when this policy came about, it was actually asked, our Parks and Recreation Board was asked by council to create this policy. One of the things is that nobody really wanted all these signs in the park in the first place because it becomes an eyesore for the parks in general. So they wanted something to limit the amount of signs, and that's why this policy was created, was to help keep the amount of signs to a reasonable amount instead of having them plastered all over every fence, on every backstop, in every field. So that was why it was created. And the Parks and Recreation Board had decided that they wanted to try and create an easier way for the sports associations to report to us. The $60 is actually what the 20% would be. So it's just a change in how it would be managed instead of having to rely on the volunteers of the sports associations to try and keep track of that and report it accurately. So
you're saying the point of this policy was to reduce the number of signs placed up?
I don't want to, well, I guess reduce, but to keep it within reason.
And does that happen?
I believe some of them choose not to do it, and I don't know if the reason is because of the fees or if it's just because they choose not to solicit. But we do get a reasonable amount of signs on certain fields, some more than others, and I think that it's reflective of the size of the association. This year the Hofbauer field had like 50 signs. I think we had 30 some at Field 5. It just depends on the group and how much they solicit.
Thank you.
Now, Michelle, do we lose any man-hours monitoring these signs or processing the applications or anything?
We don't do anything with the applications. All we do is just in our rounds of the parks, just note how many signs are on the fences. So whatever it might take to count a sign on the fence, but we don't spend a lot of time. Again, that's why he said that we don't really audit it, because we don't spend a lot of time on that. We're not trying to nitpick. We just try to keep track so we can communicate with them what our records are and what theirs are. And then, like I said, we've always taken their word for.
I don't know, somebody mentioned, are you guys physically hanging them or the associations?
The associations do.
Do they have to be a certain size?
Yes, the policy outlines all of that information too, the sizes that they're allowed to have, and then the content.
I think that part of the policy should absolutely remain. Yes.
I can just add one thing. I'm Jeff Crummy, I'm the chairperson of the Parks and Rec Board. As far as the fee goes, when council at the time asked us to put this policy together, we didn't have a part coming back to the township. It was a way for the sports associations to fundraise. I mean, the sports associations had asked us for years, can we sell signs, can we sell signs? Township and the town said, we don't want signs, we don't want advertising, we don't want sponsorships in the parks. So we came up with the policy, we brought it to council, and council at the time felt that the township should receive something for the wear and tear, for maintenance on the field, to help support the athletic fields and things like that. So it was council that asked us to put that fee in.
Right, and my point is, I think those organizations put it right back in.
And they do. But again, that's just the history of how we got to a percentage coming back.
It would eliminate these organizations, you guys from doing audits, it would just be easier.
I don't dispute that.
Okay, thank you. So I guess I'll make a motion to eliminate Peters Township Youth Sports Sign Athletic Field sign costs and to keep the rest of the,
So any cost paid over to the township.
Correct.
We want to eliminate this 20% fee because it's not even been changed to the $60 annual fee.
correct, yeah,
And then all monies would be kept by the organizations.
yes.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. 6-0, Mr. Jarowski. Next item is recommendation by the Peters Township Park and Recreation Board to impose a fine on the Peters Township Youth Football Association for failure to supply youth protection clearance in accordance with township policies.
Yeah, and I'll give some quick background, but obviously, Mr. Crummy, you're here, so you can give a little bit more in terms of the board's thinking on this. The issue before council tonight is exclusively the $500 fine for the failure to comply with the township's requirement that youth organizations provide the township with proof of youth protection clearances for all coaches. This isn't just a township requirement, it's a requirement of state law as well. Prior to the start of the football season, the township requested proof of youth protection clearances. They were not received, and additional requests were made. Despite a number of reminders, we did not receive those clearances until February of 2023. We talked with football. The council has made it clear that this can never happen again. We've never had this problem in the past, and so the Parks and Rec Board was reviewing this matter at their last meeting, took action under the township policy. The decision of the Rec Board regarding suspension of the president of the Football Association was final, but the Parks and Rec Board also believed that the entire board shared responsibility for the failure to provide the clearances. And they didn't want to suspend the entire board just because it would cripple the organization, really punish the kids who are playing football. But they recommend imposing a fine of $500. Michelle, I know you got that actually from our Code of Ordinances. That was the basis for the $500 fine. So Jeff, I'll defer to you if you want to get up there, if you have any questions, or if did I miss anything?
No, you summed it up pretty well.
Okay. And
No one here from the Football Association wants to give their side? Look like it, okay.
yeah, the fines are, they can make recommendations on fines. They're enforced at the council level.
Well, I understand, based on the reports that we have been presented, that this has been trauma that has gone on for
Yes, some of you
far
have
too
privy
long, okay?
Yes, it was.
And
Now,
it actually, in my opinion, put our youth at risk because we didn't have the type of support that we were supposed to have with the
Correct.
reports being filed.
Correct.
Given all that, and I'm on your side, I still think I'm opposed to the concept of the $500 fine.
I guess I agree with Mr. Lewis. I think suspending was the right thing. I think you guys did handle it really well, but to me, it's a move on after that. That's my opinion.
Where would this fine, just out of curiosity, if we were to impose the fine, where does the money go? Just in the general Parks and Rec budget, or where does the $500 go?
I thought we were sharing against the council. No?
Oh, yeah, correct. No. And there's only 6 of us tonight, right? So we each get a bigger cut, right?
I would have to defer to the administration as to where those funds go. The reason that the Parks and Rec Board felt very strongly that a fine was needed and necessary, this is the second incident with this organization in a 2-year period. We had an incident back during COVID. We won't get into the details, but again...
No, we remember that. Yeah, we already had an appeal hearing on that issue.
And again, we felt that this, and given the nature of what the infraction was, it wasn't we're missing your meeting minutes. It wasn't we don't have your youth rosters or your practice schedules. This was we don't know that those people that are on that field are cleared. And we just had an incident involving someone that was working in this township for a corporation. I think you all know who I'm talking about. Hit the news. And again, this isn't a matter that we take lightly. So we felt that the $500 fine was necessary to reinforce to those sports associations, particularly this one, that we take this stuff seriously.
So whose responsibility is it to make sure all of the clearances are obtained by these organizations?
The process goes that the associations are responsible for getting the background checks for all of their volunteers. They are then to provide the Parks and Recreation Department with a very simple list. Here are all our volunteers, here's when their background checks were submitted, and here's when they expire. So, but they're responsible for getting the actual clearances. So if there's someone that's not cleared, they need to let us know, Jeff's not cleared to coach football.
Sure. And what's the process if Parks and Rec is not supplied with that information?
The process is, we go back to the association. If it's before, we're supposed to have everything before their season starts.
Correct.
99 times out of 100 we do. Sometimes we don't. Sometimes we get them a week after practices start. The paperwork going back and forth, but 99% of the time, before the season kicks off, we have the information that we need. Mm-hmm. In this case, we didn't have it, but we were assured it's coming, it's coming. Season got started. We kept believing we were going to get the information. We got bits and pieces of information. There were dates missing. There were names missing. It was just a mess. So in a spirit of cooperation and not, our other recourse is shut them down. We always hear people say, well, just shut them down. Well, everybody up here knows what's going to happen when we shut down a sports association.
Yeah, this room's not big enough.
This room's not big enough. So, and again, we don't want to do that. Mm-hmm. Because again, yes, we agree that punishes the kids. That doesn't, and punish is the wrong word, but
No, you're right.
It's the people that are responsible for getting the information. It's not the kids playing football. They didn't do anything wrong.
Well, I guess along those lines, is the monetary deterrent, this $500, is not paid by the individuals. It's paid by the kids in the organization.
Well,
and is there a way, I know you're talking about to punish the individuals going forward with the policy of non-compliance versus, I just don't see them reacting. I understand you don't want this to go ignored, but to Mr. Lewis's point, I don't see them reacting, changing their behavior when the kids have to sell more candy bars and pay the $500.
I agree with you. In this case, we actually have received a memo that the individual is paying the fine out of his own pocket.
Yeah, that I think would make a difference.
And he's already agreed to do that. I don't know if we've got the check yet or not, but he's agreed to do that. But, however, we just revised the sign policy, and so they can make money that way. This particular association, regarding the sign policy, they intentionally did not sell signs because they didn't want to pay that 20% to the township. I'm sure some of you saw that in the memo. But if you do the math, they proverbially cut off their nose to spite their face. Sure. They didn't sell $18,000 worth of signs because they didn't want to give us $3,000. There's $14,000. So I have a hard time sympathizing with the organizations and the kids having to sell more candy bars when you have an adult that just threw away $14,000.
Well, no, and I'm with you and with the council looking for compliance, whatever that is. I just wondered, and I'm sure you've put more thought to this than I have, as to whether that $500 is going to make a difference if council imposes that.
Well, so is your question, is it enough?
Well, is it directed to the right person versus organization. I think you've
I don't
said the
believe
individual.
I don't believe we legally can fine the individual.
No,
I
but
don't think we have
can
a-
you deter, the individual is suspended or has to sit out so many games that doesn't comply? I know they,
That was in this case.
beyond that.
Yeah, in this case, we did suspend the individual that we felt was responsible for that, and I believe it was stated, the original motion made by members of our board, and was pretty strongly supported by members of our board, was to suspend that entire board. And there was a member of the Football Association at our meeting that night on another issue, and he just said, guys, we just shut the season down because they're all coaches. Where are we going to get 6 other coaches? Okay, we get that. We don't want to do that. That's not our point.
No, you demand compliance, right.
But our point is, we got to make a point that we're serious about this stuff. It's gone on too long, and sports associations have gotten away with other things. Not background checks, not sending us their rosters, not sending us their back, and they kind of, what are you going to do about it? What are they going to do about it? Well, until about a couple of years ago, we didn't have anything we could do about it. Well, we finally put these policies together. We got council's backing to say, no, now you guys have some teeth, and we're just trying to use our teeth and not excessively use them.
I understand. I wanted you to flush that out. I appreciate that.
Yeah, okay. Any other questions, issues, clarifications?
One thing that I will say is, I don't want to see this happen again. So.
I will tell you, Mr. Lewis, at our last board meeting, it was very clear that every sports association is on notice that you're not getting your fields this year until we have your background checks. Don't go on the field, because if you do go on the field, police will be called because you don't have a permit. You are not getting those permits, and if you want to come to cry to council, go ahead and come cry to council. We'll roll the dice and see how that plays out.
And if they come here, they won't get a sympathetic ear, because when we learned that they played essentially a whole season without turning in their coaches' clearances, that's unacceptable. I don't care what sports you are. The idea that we put our kids at risk like that. I mean, thankfully, apparently all the coaches were clear. But
yes.
the idea,
according to the list we finally got, yes.
The idea that we had kids playing for almost the whole season and that their coaches' clearances weren't in, that's unacceptable. And I can assure you, if that happens again this year and you guys shut them down and they come here, they're not getting any sympathy. At least they're not for me. I don't know how anybody else feels, but no, when we heard about that, we were just aghast that. I'm not going to say arrogance, but the idea that they just played without turning in.
One of the comments that was made to us at our December meeting was, kind of, what's the big deal? No one got hurt. Nothing happened. There were no issues. I said, the issue's not going to happen this year. It's going to happen 3 years, 5 years, 10 years down the road when it's going to be, and then they're going to come back to us and go, hey, this happened, back in 2022. Let me see your records.
Exactly
go,
right.
Well, that was the year we gave them a pass. We came in, no, not happening.
I think almost everyone on this council has their clearances. Mr. Lewis, I don't know if Mr. Lewis does or not, because he doesn't have kids of that age anymore. But I mean, all of us went through that process. I had to get my clearances to deliver 800 boxes of Girl Scout cookies. I mean, get your you want to coach, get your daggone clearances and turn them in. I mean, on every other sport. We don't have this problem with any other sport, right?
We have not.
We have not. No, we have not.
All right.
So, again, I just want to reiterate, nobody's getting on a field this year until we have their clearances. So be forewarned, you might have some visitors.
All right, well, back to the question on the floor.
And that's part of our existing policy.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, we're not implementing anything new here.
Right.
Absolutely not.
The last thing, Jay.
Yeah, but it usually puts you.
So what do we want to do about the fine?
I'll make a motion that we waive the fine, which would be $500, but we'd have to have a second. And
Second.
you guys, and you can vote yes or no. I don't care.
All right, we have a motion, a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. 6-0, Mr. Jarosky, although make it a point that the next time this comes in front of us and the fine's levied, there's a good chance that vote's not going the same way. Payroll and Bills, Dr. Porosco.
Mr. Kozer, I did review payrolls and bills. Everything is in good standing order. Make a motion to approve.
I second. Motion and second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. 6-0, Mr. Jurovsky. Correspondence, I see nothing.
I don't know that I agree with you there.
Under correspondence?
Well,
There's nothing under correspondence.
all right.
Okay.
There's a
Reports?
correspondence that relates to another item, but
Yes.
Anybody want to discuss any of the committee reports or minutes? No. Move on to miscellaneous, temporary traffic control on Bunker Hill Drive.
Yeah, we've been getting calls. This is right near the intersection of Bebout and Valley Brook, and with the roundabout that you're going to start seeing construction of over the next couple weeks, and at some point you'll see Valley Brook itself closed. There's a lot of concern for the residents of Bunker Hill on diversionary traffic. So we've already posted local traffic only signs here. The traffic engineer and the police department are recommending a temporary stop sign at the intersection of Allison and Bunker Hill right here. We're going to probably have, what we'll have before you is an ordinance that sunsets basically at the end of this year for that, so it's enforceable by the police department at the next meeting. So I don't know if there's any strong feelings from council about this. I just want to make you all aware.
I think that's a good idea. I always presumed that would become everybody's favorite
Yeah.
cut-through.
Did I miss
Valley Brook
anything
was
more?
closed.
No, just a couple other measures. I know that the police are going to put up some of the solar-powered speed displays there on Bunker Hill, just as a kind of deterrent, for speeding through the neighborhood. I mean, people are going to use it. It's a public road. We can't prevent that, but we just have trying to control the traffic that goes through the neighborhood. So.
Where's the detour posted? Is it on a website or anything?
We have some information on our website. In terms of like a detour, the state always uses state roads to detour people. So the official detour is
it's probably 10 miles away.
well, it may not be 10, but it's a lot. It's since Valley Brook's closed, you have to go up to Bebout to.
Turkey
Yeah, I guess
Foot.
it'd be at the BP station there. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's not Turkey Foot. Well, Bebout's open. The intersection to Bebout would be open at all times, so you just have to kind of make a loop around the whole thing. That's the official detour.
And do we have an official starting date for when all the happiness is going to begin?
I could tell you what they've told us, but, it always seems to be a moving target. I mean, we were told by PennDOT's contractor that by the end of April, they hope to start roundabout construction. It's only a month away. They still have a lot of utility relocates to do. There's a water line that needs to be moved. There's some utility poles that need to be moved, and there's only a couple weeks to do that. So you'll start to see some activity. You see that the trees were cleared, at the intersection there. So there's kind of drips and drabs of activity happening, but the utility relocates, there won't be any detour for those. There'll be flaggers in one lane, so that might even be worse, actually, because traffic will just get snarled up, by the flaggers. But the official roundabout construction and the detour will take place, we're hearing a month from now, but stay tuned.
Next item, entrance sign, Rolling Hills Drive.
Yeah, there was discussion of monument signs at the entrance to Rolling Hills Park and obviously the Peters Township High School. Given the topography, especially on our side of the property, that hill there that kind of prevents a monument sign from being put anywhere that's useful, is council willing to consider something that would look more like this?
Yeah.
As a concept. I mean, not obviously with the particular wording picked out, but
That was nice, actually.
yeah.
Where would we install this?
I mean, it would be installed at the entrance off of East McMurray and Rolling Hills Drive. You'd probably install it there.
So it would go over top of Rolling Hills Drive?
Yes.
We'll say Rolling Hills Park.
Yes, it would designate the park and the high school. I can't tell you how.
Yeah.
No, I mean, if you saw my office, it's painted in gray. I'm not an aesthetic person, so I'm not the person you want to talk to about that.
I still would look to have some type of electronic board on there to announce, school events, sporting events, park events,
Yeah.
stuff like that.
But as a concept, this sort of gateway
That
entrance is
diminishes
something that you're, okay, all right.
Is there going to be anything at the back entrance?
Yeah, like a monument sign or something like that. We can,
Just something,
yeah.
not like that.
Yeah, that intersection cannot be bare as well. So, no, I agree with you. There's going to be something there. I think the big question is, what do you have at the main entrance right now? And that's what we wanted to get a feel from council on.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Okay.
Next item, library request for reconsideration.
Yeah, just one thing. It was brought up at the last council meeting in terms of the policy and its adoption timeframe versus the book that's being challenged in the collection. Just wanted to be clear that the book itself has actually been in the library collection since 2019. The collection policy was last updated April 25th, 2022. So the impetus to adopt that policy obviously came out of, Mr. Sloan, you brought it up, the ALA and these organizations that have brought to the attention of libraries that these challenge policies are going to be more and more, or these challenges are going to be more and more prevalent. You need to have a policy in place. So,
How many times, do we know how many times the book has been taken out of the library?
I believe it's been taken out 8 times since 2019. Yes.
Okay, next, staffing, fire station number 3.
Yeah, Chief McLaughlin and Deputy Chief Caputo are here as well. Paul, I know, provided a bunch of information on this. Just to give you some quick background here, when we were, and Paul's memo kind of spells it out, but when we were preparing for construction of Fire Station 3, there was this question of, look, how are you going to staff it? And at that time, Chief McLaughlin, and Deputy Chief Caputo and the Assistant Fire Chief as well, put together a strategic plan that kind of looked at NFPA, which is National Fire Protection Association standards, the ISO, the Insurance Service Rating standards, how they would apply to response by district in Peters Township, looking at factors like median home age as well for the entire township, household size, people living with disabilities and where they're located, where they're concentrated, and what the level of staffing would comprise. To fully staff Fire Station 3 at this time would require at least eight full-time firefighters. And in addition to that, you would probably, I shouldn't say in addition to that, when we opened Fire Station 3, it was with the understanding, and it's contained in this 2023 budget, that we were going to hire 2 full-timers to staff that station at least 70% of the time, mixing in there the shifts for part-timers, duty shifts of the volunteer fire department, which we increased the available funds for duty shifts in the budget as well to try to get that, to try to get volunteers, incentivize them to participate in more duty shifts. We did file, just to give you some background here, to bring on an additional 3 firefighters. We recently submitted something called a SAFER grant to the Federal Emergency Management Agency. It was submitted on March 16th, I should say. It would fund 3 additional firefighters, 75% of their salaries and benefits for 2 years, in an effort to probably get that staffing work to maybe 90%, 93%.
In year 1, the goal would be 90%.
Yeah,
Year
yeah.
2 decreases after that because of paid time off.
Now, I think the issue was that year 1 should have been last year, which is what you guys stated in the April 12th, 2021 meeting, at approximately 22 minutes and 30 seconds in. That's the issue, I think, that regarding the full-time staffing. The concern I had was the fact that station was left unmanned for, you're saying 5 hours. I didn't even know it was that long. So my question is, what's the process to ensure that it is staffed? In the report that you guys prepared a year or so ago, you mentioned several times all the volunteers that you have. So my question was, were they contacted to provide staffing for that station on, what was it, a week ago, Friday, Saturday night? Were they contacted? I guess you guys, it was unmanned because somebody had to go to a training at the Allegheny County Fire Academy. So how long in advance was this known? Did this just come up out of nowhere?
Out of the scheduling period, and like we had discussed at the budgetary meetings, the goal would be 70% if 2 personnel were to be hired.
Okay,
This
so is that
is
going to be
year
your
1.
excuse every time?
This isn't my excuse.
Well, yeah, but what steps were taken to prevent that station from being staffed that night? I understand there's going to be times when it can't be staffed, but...
Well, that was 15 days. Well, as of Tuesday, we were 15 days into staffing that building. And that
Again,
was 14 hours
I'm just,
total.
Mike, I'm just asking you, were there steps taken beyond?
Yes, there were steps taken to
Okay.
mitigate
Were
closing that
the-
station down every time we have to.
Were the volunteers contacted? Were no volunteers?
Yes, the volunteers are always available to sign up for open shifts, yes.
And there was nobody available to sit at that station?
Chief Caputo handles the schedule.
There
I'll
was
let him
one
speak.
volunteer that came in to do a duty shift, however, they didn't meet qualifications. They were a junior. So the crew took the time that they were at Station 1 to take that junior and do training with that junior.
So out of, what is it, 34 volunteers, not a single person you guys couldn't put out on all-call? What about you guys? Were you guys could cover that station? I mean, that's something I would expect going above and beyond in a managerial position.
Well, I mean, we could do that, but I received an email from you in 2020 with your concern about the deputy chief acting in an operational role. At that point in time, you asked myself and Mr. Lauer,
Right.
if Chief Caputo prefers to be a firefighter, we should accommodate him by paraphrasing, demoting him. So if he's going to act in that role.
And I was told
why
at
do you
that
have it
point
both
that he
ways?
could do that, so I would assume that he is somebody that could man that station. And it's
Well,
not
what
just
time
about
was
that,
that?
it's about
At what
medical
time?
calls.
At what time? That was 7 o'clock at night, correct?
That's when I was there, but you're saying it was 5 hours.
This man is a salaried employee.
Well, that's
It's-
something else we're still waiting to hear back from Mr. Lauer on is, working that into the schedule. But
I don't think this really has anything to do with the schedule in the first place.
Friday night, there was a medical call in the plant next to Timberlake. I can't think of the name of it.
Colony?
Lake Colony.
Lake Colony.
There's about a 2 to 3 minute response time to that. That's how it should go. That's what people in those neighborhoods are expecting.
We're not
Absolutely.
disagreeing with that
There's
at
no
all.
disagreement with that whatsoever. And when we presented the budget, there were a couple options about how many personnel were hired this year in 2023 to begin staffing that station.
Yeah.
That station, which we just took occupancy of March 6th
Right.
of 2023.
I don't want to get into that because it went nowhere last time we discussed the SAFER grants, but
Well, when
I
we
think we need
discussed
to
the
have-
SAFER grants the last time, in the time you're speaking of at that April 12th meeting, the SAFER grant for fiscal year 2021 had closed. The deadline was February 4th, 2022. Council did not authorize the construction of that station until March 28th of 2022. So if we did not authorize the construction of that station until March 28th, how could I apply for a SAFER grant on February 4th?
I thought that was.
So I guess, Chief, the question is, what are we going to do to make sure that there's somebody there as many hours every day as possible?
Schedule, strategically schedule.
We strategically schedule, we bend over backwards to try to make it happen.
Because here's the
But
thing.
70%
If it's one person's
70%
opinion in
of the time.
operations that this doesn't happen, that can't affect the rest
No,
of
it
the
didn't
council's
happen.
mentality.
No, and I'm not trying to be adversarial with you guys.
Absolutely.
The thing is, the residents of that part of the township are all excited because they've got a fire station, which they deserve, but if we're not going to have it staffed the whole time, it's, as we all, Murphy's Law, we all know that when there's nobody over there, that's
Correct.
when a place is going to catch fire.
And that's what keeps me up at night. But what we know is it takes 8 personnel to be able to do that. And when we established this, it was a 10-year plan. If we want to do it in 10 minutes, I'm perfectly fine with that. Give me a horse, we'll make glue. But it's one of those things that there are sacrifices to that. In that plan that we had outlined, the very last line, if you read, the plan is not intended to be implemented all at once, especially in regards to staffing. A systematic approach to implementation, as outlined in the presentations presented to council before, increases the likelihood of success in the short and long term of this station. So we know what it takes. If it takes 8 personnel, we know the budget ramifications of that. That's a lot. It's a lot to weigh on.
I rewatched that video today of that council meeting, and I didn't hear a single council person object when Mr. Lauer mentioned bringing them on as soon as possible to make sure that that was staffed.
Absolutely. And in the budget meeting that we had just this past year, when we presented 3 versus 2, we even got the lesser of that, of being 2 personnel. And we understand why. And because of that, we lost the daylight fire inspector. So now that puts more impetus on myself, on the deputy chief, administrative functions during the day, to make sure these things are taken care of.
The bottom line is, I just want to make sure that there's a process in place to ensure that that station is staffed. And I don't see it yet. That's all I'm asking. I didn't need the back and forth bickering on this. That's all I'm asking for. I don't know, but, I mean, I don't even know if Paul will.
So the station is being staffed as much as it can be due to budgetary constraints.
All right, we're going nowhere again. I think we can
So
move on.
I'm not sure what you're actually asking for, though, Gary.
I think it's what's the process when it's not manned? What do
We
you
can
have an
ask
outlined
people to
process?
do duty shifts, but again, we have to provide the same level of service. So if it's not a volunteer who's qualified to meet the same standards, then you're not putting the same crew down there.
Well, now on
So
average, let's say every night on average, how many volunteers do you have come to duty shifts at the main station?
I can pull numbers from last year and what we've done year to date to say that, but, you know, once again, if they're not occurring during the times that we are downstaffed, one of the things that I did put in the budget presentation this year was, if we get 2 people, the best we can do is 75% of the time, and that did include volunteer staffing that building as well.
So are there any times when you're not fully staffed over at number 2, at Station 2?
Station 2 is complete.
Station 1.
Station 1. Well, that's the thing. I mean, even if we're out on another call and we have 1 crew for the day, that building is technically unstaffed during that time. So in the fire service, this happens all the time. The point in putting a building down there is to reduce the response times. And when you put staffing in that building, it's going to do that. It has done that. We have had multiple calls in that area since March 6th that have done exactly that. We will continue to do that. But with 2 personnel full-time at the beginning of the year, the best case scenario that we had outlined was 75% to include volunteer staffing at that time. If you calculate how many hours are in a week and how many hours we work during the day, that's the number that you're going to get.
Are you hitting the 75 now, Chief?
Oh, we're beyond that, yeah. Yeah.
But it's only been since March 6th.
Right. We have a Mr. Ross, a very short sample size. But yes, hands down, I'm actually thrilled, and that's what's kind of deflating about this whole situation is how well our crews have stepped up. I mean, there's not adequate supplies in that station yet to fully staff that building, so the building's built. But there's so many things that the owners have to do, and to speak to Kyle, Paul, and Ryan's efforts to get these things done, anything from phones, toilet paper, paper towel, anything that goes into this building, appliances that were on the owner, our crews have been doing down there without, just to get people into that building. So realistically, we're in that building before we realistically could have been.
When is our open house now? We moved it out,
May 8th.
so it's not next month.
Yeah, not an open house from my understanding of how the situation. We're going to do a formal opening ceremony of that building on May 8th before the
It was
council.
our invitation to be able to
And the
be
building
present.
will be fully staffed at that time.
We'll have some people there for you. But you know, when it comes back to it, it's not about being controversial, adversarial. It's the fact that these things are deflating. And reading through this email that Mr. Steigel sent is just, you know, well beyond what I would think is professional in that manner.
Well, you're never willing to accept any responsibility when issues are called out. You always get defensive over things, and that's where we end up where we're at. I'm just trying to make sure that that station is staffed so that the residents in that area can feel that when they call 911, people that live in Lake Colony and Timberlake, Old Trails, they expect that there's a fire engine down there and that they're going to get somebody that at their house within 2 to 3 minutes, like happened Friday night when I was listening to the scanner. Not waiting 10 to 15 minutes or whatever it takes for them to get from Station 1 down there. That's all I'm asking. I'm asking for a process to get there. You're obviously unwilling to do that, so as far as I'm concerned, we can move on.
How can you make that accusation that we're unwilling to
We've
do
asked you how many times, and you're not telling us what it is other than scheduling.
You are the only one asking anything.
Tom asked.
Mr. Proskos or Dr. Proskos or something I can
answer him here in a second.
I think what Mr. Seigel's asking for is when you're not staffed, what is your process
How
to
do we-
staff? Like,
so-
what's your algorithm? What's your outline?
So it
How do
actually
you-
starts before that, and our whole goal is to staff it as much as possible. Like that's all we want.
Sure.
In the scheduling process to begin with, we actually took, our crews used to have what were called Kelly days, assigned Kelly days. So
Non-paid days off.
Non-paid days off, so that we don't pay them overtime, essentially. Anytime that their shift falls where there would be 3 in a week, they would get one of those days off. We've moved past that and convinced them that we're now going to do assigned Kelly days, as in, when I sit down and do the schedule, I literally will look at every time that there's part-time availability or availability of somebody else to fill that shift, then that's how they get their Kelly days. So they have no idea until the schedule comes out when they're getting their Kelly days. So that's a sacrifice kind of on their part, but it's a scheduling benefit to us because we're now moving those non-paid days off to better accommodate the township to be able to staff that station as much as possible.
Well, and gentlemen, it would be my perception anyway that not every firefighter is qualified to operate the vehicle or serve as an engineer on that piece of equipment. So you have a limited pool of
Qualified personnel that 34 reduces to about 7.
The only other, logical thing that I'm sitting here listening to is knowing a planned absence or inability. Is that something that we should consider calling a fighter in, even though it's going to involve paying them overtime?
That's something we're doing on a short sample size right now to try to gauge as to how often this is going to happen.
Because that would be my encouragement at the moment to get through this transition to afford the protection that we are striving to achieve.
Absolutely. And where it's going to get a sample size in the month of April, that may extrapolate even further in the summer months where vacations and paid time off are even more prevalent.
But I'm trying to listen to the comments as they've circulated across this room, and I'm feeling like it's what steps or protocol are we doing to minimize or mitigate the staffing situation that we have?
Yes, so taking the 12 full-time firefighters that we have available that work a 24-hour on and a 48-hour off schedule. Once every 3 weeks, they have to take a non-paid day off using those resources, part-time resources, and plugging in volunteers whenever they're doing shifts. Last year, we had over, I think it was 2,600 man-hours in volunteer duty shifts, which equates to almost the same time as one full-time firefighter.
And Mike, please don't think that I'm blaming this on you entirely. I blame most of it on Paul because as Bob and Frank can attest, I asked him ad nauseum long before they even started construction of that building to work with you to develop these processes. He ignored me every time. 90% of this is on him.
Well, and
that's why I included him.
And I can't speak to that. But, in reference to doing...
And I wish he was here tonight.
What my manager directs me to do and,
Right.
and everything like that, to keep him satisfied, to keep the township satisfied, the fire department staffed at its fullest is our number one priority, and I can speak to him on that. We work very hard at what we do. We put in a lot of hours, well over our minimum that are required of salaried employees. But realistically, we're short-staffed all around. That includes not only line personnel, but administrative personnel. What you look at is what we've got. As far as Dave and myself, we have very limited resources when it comes to generating administrative functions and things like that. We spend a lot of time answering the phone during the day, handling secretarial duties, because those don't exist within the fire department. So
I understand.
And I would make the point again. We did apply for the SAFER grant to get 3 additional firefighters here. I mean, do we know when we're going to hear on that? Is it August?
Realistically, it's probably September is the earliest they're going to start issuing awards for that.
Yeah. So we'll get an idea around that.
Gentlemen, thank you very much for appearing here. I like to listen to what you have. I would encourage other members of this council that haven't been to a fire academy or a police academy to get your butts out there and spend some of those Monday nights or whatever nights they are.
Well, right now,
I can't tell you, how much I felt I learned just in those brief opportunities. But
a night like tonight's another example. Tonight's our normal Monday night training, and there's almost 25, 30 people together training. They're at Station 1. They're at our training house on 19, available to respond. So, are they sitting in that fire station right now? No, because they're better served training with the crews and then returning right back to that building. The same thing would happen when we're at Station 1 and would train at Station 2 on a Monday night. Is that area without fire protection? No. And by roll of the dice, it's like how police officers patrol. They may be patrolling over on 19 on the north end of town, and something happens all the way on the south end. It's kind of the law of averages. So We try to forecast as best we can, but, the fires don't happen when you want them to or how you want them to, so.
Thank you, chiefs.
Mike, can you wait just on this next agenda
Yeah, I
item?
figure you'd be
You
on
just
the
stay
next
there.
Next item,
Can I comment here?
coming up.
Who is this guy?
Didn't realize you brought reinforcements tonight. How you doing, Chief?
How you doing? My name's Dan Coyle.
Oh, is that right? We haven't seen you for a while.
Fire chief for 37 years here. And I'm sitting back here and I'm listening, and I retired here in 2019. And prior to that, I have complained and complained and complained and got with council about staffing. It's a big issue for everybody across the board. The fire service is pretty much doing everything right now. They're answering a ton of EMS calls.
Absolutely.
So that goes now to the fire service, where the fire service was never involved in EMS, but then we got involved in EMS because we had an issue. So if we're starting to look at people to pick on, Gary, pick on the EMS. That, number one, there's 500 calls a year that the fire department really shouldn't be answering. It started off to be a first responder, but now it's on a weekend, 14, 15, 16, 17 calls. You are never, ever going to staff a station 24/7. It's not going to happen. There is not a fire department in this country that does that. You take the city of Pittsburgh. Years ago, when they responded to a larger fire, they had fills. They called another station to fill. So somebody else is getting robbed, if you will, of not having protection. But for 20 years, I asked to get a station down in the Venetia area, and it was ignored, ignored, ignored. And finally we don't need that. We won't have staffing. We won't have this. We won't have. Now you have the opportunity that you have a station there. You want to staff it, but it's never going to be a positive thing. You used to be able to call volunteer departments from other places and say, hey, we're out on an extended call. We need, for you to come fill our station. They did that. But there's not that volunteer program anymore. In the 70s, there was 300,000 volunteer firemen in this state. And in the early 80s, they were at 150. We're at 38,000. That's crazy. People's time more important than volunteering in the department. You have a lot of standards today, and we follow them. We made sure that our people were trained. We did everything and anything possible. So to start cherry picking because the station's not staffed for an hour or 5 hours, I think is crazy. Should be up to the fire chief and the administration of how those things get handled. And that is an internal issue. That's all things that are laid out that it very well could be. That station could be staffed for 10 minutes in the morning, and 12 hours later, it's never been staffed. I understand that you put a station there, you want to staff it. But to my best calculations, it would probably be 18 people total that you need to put the staffing in there to guarantee it. That comes to people on council. When the chief submits his budget, he has to put in and verify, here's what I want. I want these. At this point, I think the conversation is out of hand, personally. Gary, I think that you got a personal issue with Mike, and you and I have talked about this. Yes or no? You called the chief out in a meeting. Hold on a minute. You called him out in a meeting and said that either he didn't know what he was doing or he's lying to council. I saw that. I flipped. And I called you, and we talked about that.
Right, but
I think, personally, council, you can do what you want. But I think that there is a problem with a person on your council that uses his position, stand by, uses his position to get his way. That's me talking. Gary, you and I have history, long time, okay? I'm not going to air dirty laundry here, but I'm going to say that as I see this, this is a personal issue that try to nitpick and cherry pick the chief. Bottom line, thank you, and I'll move on.
Thank you, Dave.
Shaner?
All right, I watched that video that he's referring to at that council meeting. I attended that council meeting when we watched those houses go up in like, what, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, okay? I live in an old house, so I have, I guess, maybe, I'm going to say, I hoped 15 minutes, but maybe 10 at the best. So, you know, there is more time when there's a fire occurring on an older house than a new house. So those people are in jeopardy down there. Now, listen, you know, I attended so many council meetings about a pool, okay, for what, $11 million? So now you're not doing the pool. I say staff, get some staff people in that fire station. That's what I do. Or maybe I should go and do a survey down in Venetia and ask all the people how concerned they are about not having a staffed fire station, okay? Now that's the issue. I say we need to get some people. I don't even live down there. I live over in McMurray. I say we need to get some people down there because I'll tell you what, that was horrifying watching those houses go up in flames like that. How fast they just burned. So if any of you live down there, I mean, you know, hats off to you because I don't think I'd be living down there. I wouldn't. No. So I think, you know, I think you need to, you're saving money on the pool, so there. I don't know where, who knows, because it was so confusing where the money was coming from anyway about the pool. But now that you're not doing the pool, try to find some money. Hey, statistics shows that Venetia, the Venetia area, is the most concentrated area of wealth in southwestern Pennsylvania. Do you all know that?
Yep.
Huh? You all know that? Okay, so there's got to be some money somewhere that you can hire some people down in that station. I don't think you have to go to 18. If you only have 12 at the one on number 1, I don't know how many you would need down there. I mean, maybe that he's right about that, comparing how many people live down there, how many people live over here. But I think you need to do something about that. That's my 2 cents.
Thank you, Ms. Shaner. Moving on to countywide emergency services radio system.
Yeah, I'm sure everyone's seen the paper regarding the emergency radio system, and I defer to Mike if I get anything wrong here, but the county has awarded a contract for a provider to upgrade their emergency radio system. Paul, Doug, and Mike are planning to meet with the county at some point in the next 2 weeks to discuss integrating the system that we spent $400,000 on into this new system. We're going to make sure that whatever they're building there meets our needs. Mike, what am I missing?
Well, that too, and if our system cannot integrate into their system would have possibly the ability to trump our system if it met or exceeded our standards. Council had authorized spending, I believe it was 2018, Mr. Jarosky, to enhance our radio system to come to 95% portable coverage, portable on hip. So when a firefighter, police officer, EMS personnel talks on the radio, they have a 95% chance, no matter where they're at the township, to receive a signal and to get out to the 911 center. So that's something that's actually a little unique to Peters Township. Is we are one of the only municipalities that has gone beyond the county's own system to increase our radio coverage. In some areas of the county, it's down to 25% coverage. So the county is embarking on this process now to improve their public safety radio system with a P25 phase 2 conventional, which basically means it's the new phase. Our system and equipment is compatible in being used in that. We have asked for their hand in meeting with us and making sure that we can be a part of that. If it makes sense to relieve our taxpayers of that burden, that's something that I think we should look at first and foremost, because these systems do take maintenance. It will need replaced after the 15-year life cycle that it has. So if eventually we could move over to the county system, if it would meet the same standards as ours, that's something that would be a unique, or now a distinct advantage to us to relieve our taxpayers of that burden. So we're looking at all options. We're also meeting with North Strabane Township in how this affects the communities in the northern end of Washington County. To that, I can be the other one that attests that I saw Ms. Shaner at that same county commissioners meeting. I was watching remotely from a conference that I was at. So, Paul went and spoke on our behalf, and thanks him for that. But this is a working and fluid situation with the county, and we look forward to sitting down with them and discussing with them in the near future.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, sir.
Next item, cellular towers at Peterswood Park and tar self-storage.
Just given how sensitive this topic has been, we just wanted to bring to you, your attention, 2 cell towers. I mean, the one you're already aware of, the AT&T cell tower at Peterswood Park near the football fields. I know they have their permit ready to go. We're ready to issue it right now. So this is a very bad rendering of what's planned, but provided there's no objection, we plan on, we've obviously signed a lease with them. We plan on issuing the permit as soon as tomorrow.
That's going to have the lights on it, too.
Yeah, that's what those.
That's the 4 bullets below.
I think the sheet we're looking at here is a little outdated. It looks like a chain link fence down here.
It's a vinyl
I've gone
fence.
back and forth with them. They're doing white vinyl fence on all fencing around this equipment, so we're not going to see any. The original plans came with barbed wire on top of the chain link fence. That was definitely not going to happen.
But is there going to, so it's going to be just vinyl? And then,
Yeah.
so that whole, the way it used to be where they put barbed wire on the top because they were afraid somebody would jump in and get shocked, that's not a problem anymore.
You can scale an 8-foot vinyl fence, I guess.
Okay,
Go ahead.
that's true.
But, it's
Yeah.
going to be kind of difficult.
Yeah. The second cell tower, this image, just so you know, is coming northbound on 19, if you took a right at the Valley Brook intersection. These 2 cell towers on the left, I believe it's the furthest left one. This is just replacement of existing antennas on that tower. They're going to essentially, this is an overhead view of the tower here, but if you look at the top, everything in orange is coming off, everything in blue is getting installed. So that's another permit that we have now. We're preparing to issue. Again, just given the...
That's on Tom Robinson's property.
Yes, that is on Tom Robinson's property.
That self-storage facility, yep.
Yeah. Yeah, so I don't know if there's any objections, any comments from the public on this, but we plan on issuing these permits.
Is that AT&T?
This one would be T-Mobile.
This is T-Mobile. The other one's AT&T, the one at Peterswood Park.
They both comply with our ordinances, right?
Yes.
So we wouldn't have any basis to object regardless of how we felt, right?
No, and again, one's on our property, and the other one's replacement of existing antennas. They're not new towers.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So in regards to all of the cell towers around the township, has AT&T or Verizon, have any of the companies ever told us, you all, what the appropriate amount of towers would be to service our area? Because I'm like misunderstanding from going from 4G to 5G. It's more about not coverage, so much frequency.
It's a little bit of both. I have limited expertise on it just based on conversations with them. 5G does have reduced range but increased performance, and it has less of an ability to penetrate surfaces, so there's going to need to be a need for additional canisters, and that's what we're seeing an increase.
When you say that, like boosters?
Boosters, yeah, right. It's very similar to like your home Wi-Fi network. If you have a potential for a 5G home Wi-Fi network, it's going to be less able to penetrate, but faster. We've not been given a finite number of towers or canister improvements, but we have been shown areas that are deficient. I think we all are familiar with those areas. And they've identified a couple locations where they're looking to make some improvements. We've issued permits for those, predominantly along the East McMurray corridor and one on Valley Brook near the Pelopets parking lot.
And that one's actually going to be in construction here in the next month. That is a small cell tower that's within our right-of-way.
All of those are the canisters on basically telephone poles.
Yeah, utility poles.
And unfortunately, I wasn't able to make the meeting with the school board, but was there any talk about them making their service areas, improving their service in their schools?
We didn't talk about that at this most recent workshop.
Is there anything that we can do as a township to
I've not
encourage that?
I've not talked to the school board since the improvements were made to the tower on Druid Drive. I think that did help a little bit. If not, we have a new tower or new booster going on East McMurray Court in the piece of right-of-way that the township owns, replacing a utility pole and adding a canister on top of that.
That's also T-Mobile as well.
No, I think it's Verizon or AT&T. I can't recall exactly which service provider that is. And that's a part of the issue as well, is we've got X number of service providers out there, and trying to coordinate amongst all of them can be very challenging.
Right.
We rely on them to identify their areas of need and come to us for improvements, but they are fully aware, at least from the township's perspective, that we believe that there are serious gaps in service, and they're looking to address those.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Harmel, I have to ask you, since you're here, I've had a number of people ask me, when are the restrooms in Rolling Hills Park going to be open?
They're open.
They're open? When were they open?
When they started opening the restrooms, last week or so.
Yeah, it was last week.
Whenever the
all right.
first thing-
Yeah, I didn't.
So apparently these three people that have emailed me last.
I did not know they got to Rolling Hills Park last week.
yeah.
I figured it'd take
Okay,
them.
so I'll tell the three people. Obviously, they weren't there in the last couple of days. And when can people start reserving the pavilions at Rolling Hills Park?
We're working on that. We have the shelters ready, but the amenities are not, so we're working on that. As soon as we have the answer, we'll start advertising that.
Okay, thank you. All right, is there anything anybody wants to see on the next agenda? Anybody have anything else for the good of the order?
Yeah.
We have an executive session.
I don't have anything. No, I'll let you guys off. I think we've had a long enough meeting.
All right, we are adjourned.